Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Outside the Panels. As the intro says, I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. And if you've been around watching the show for a while, you all know that I love a Kickstarter. Who doesn't, right? Chance to get on something new. This time around, we have a gentleman who's taken a centuries-age tradition and turned it on its head. To explain more, it is the one and only John Holland. John, how's it going?
It's going great, sir. How are you?
I am very well indeed. Is that a Texas troll I hear from your...
Nah, it's southern, but Texas is the one place I haven't lived. I'm actually from Louisiana.
Oh, Louisiana, home of the Saints.
Yeah. Even though not too many people want to claim that right now.
I mean, even your old coach is getting out of Dodge, right?
That's true.
On that, well, I can't say enough. I'm a Dolphins fan, so you know,
Yeah.
I have my own cross to bear. All right, John, we're here to talk about your comic book. It's on Kickstarter, Alma the Champion. Before we get into the nitty and gritty about Alma, tell us, how did you get into comics? What was it about comics that made you think, wow, this is where I want to be?
It's pretty much I've been wanting to get in comics most of my life. You know, I've been reading since as long as I can remember. You know, I always say when I was about 5 or 6, my parents got me into like a book club. I think it was like a Dr. Seuss book club. So like every other month or so, I'd get a Dr. Seuss book, and I've read all my life, you know, and started reading comics probably about that same time. And later, when I got into like a teenager, I was reading a lot of science fiction, like Isaac Asimov and Harlan Ellison. And Harlan, if you've ever read Harlan, you know, he writes a lot of introductions, a lot of stuff around his stories about, you know, writing the stories and stuff like that. And Isaac Asimov does that too for his short stories. And it just kind of gave me a look at kind of like the behind the scenes and how to write the book stories. And it really fascinated me. And I've always wanted to write. So I used to do some writing, you know, when I was in high school, stuff like that nobody ever seen. And after that, you know, I started trying to, you know, send stuff. I actually tried to write science fiction first. You know, I'd send out to the magazines and stuff and always get the rejection letters back. And, but, you know, I always really wanted to write comics. Some reason I thought, well, if I can write science fiction and get published in the magazines, get me into comics, you know, it was kind of a weird way to think about it. But eventually I started trying to write comics. And back in like the late 70s and the 80s, I started getting published by like different companies like Fantagraphics and Kitchen Sink and Innovation and some of the different companies. And so, you know, I was doing that for a while and I kind of took a break. And when I've come back, I've been doing more self-publishing the last few years, but I've actually started doing some stuff with, I had a comic published by It's Alive Comics. I'm doing some work with Antarctica Press.
Cool.
I'm talking to other publishers right now that, you know, something may come of it and something may not, but you know, but in between all that, I'm still self-publishing my work also.
Cool. The old timer in me, we have a show called Old Timers Comic Book Show. The old timer in me remembers Innovation, man. That was what books did you do? What books did you do for Innovation?
I only did one for Innovation. It was, remember Quantum Leap, the original TV show?
Yeah,
I did their Christmas issue of Quantum Leap.
My first wife used to love Quantum Leap. She had a full range of the comics. So.
Oh yeah. It pretty much, I think every issue was almost a different writer for it. So it was, you know, that was one of my favorite TV shows. So when I got the chance to do an issue of it, I really enjoyed that.
So here's the question: is Quantum Leap science fiction, or is it Highway to Heaven? Which one is it? Or is it both?
That's a good question. It's kind of a combination of the two, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I must admit, I do like the I like the premise of Quantum Leap. I loved it, and how it ended, I thought was brilliant. So
Yeah, actually, the new show I've kind of started watching too, and I've enjoyed it. It's not as I was expecting it to be a train wreck, but it actually pulled it off. I think because they incorporate the old show into the new show. It's not a reboot. It's kind of a continuation.
I haven't seen it yet over here, so maybe when the powers that be decide to put two pieces of string together and wrap it in your hand.
Yeah, it's actually I'm enjoying it. So I really went into it thinking, oh, this is good. Not thinking I'd even get through the first episode, but they mentioned Scott. Al's daughter is in the show, and
cool.
I'm glad they just didn't reboot it. It continues the storyline.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's one of the best intros of that era of TV.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah,
cool. So to say you've had dabblings and you've got independent credentials behind you, your writing skills, you've then self-published. Coming back, is this book, because the premise of the book is slightly different. Tell us about the premise of Alma the Champion.
It's the way I sum it up. My tagline is, "What if Buffy was a 72-year-old grandmother?" And that's an easy, quick, way for me to introduce it, because I actually did print up about 100 copies of this before the convention season, and I was selling them through the convention to see how it did. And when people would come up to my table, and I'd ask them, "Do you know who Buffy is, or have you ever watched Buffy?" And a lot of people may have said no. But then when I said, "Well, do you know who Buffy is?" I don't think I ever had anybody tell me they didn't know who Buffy was, because Buffy's become almost an iconic character. Yeah. Even if you never watched it, you know who Buffy is. She's just been around for so long. And so then once they knew who Buffy was, and I kind of explained it, it almost sold itself, because people would be like, "Oh, that's a cool concept." Or, sometimes, the younger kids would be like, "Oh, my mom loved Buffy when or whatever." They go, "I got to get this for her," But it always kind of like, it let people know what it was, kind of the idea behind it, very easily and very quickly.
So let me ask you a really sort of like odd question then. So the idea of Buffy being a 70-year-old grandma, is this reflective of where you are in your writing career? You've written in the 70s, you've written in the 80s. We're now getting like 2020s. Are you kind of thinking, you know what, this is a young man's game, but I'm still here pounding the typewriter, sending out the scripts and stuff? Is this like a reflective piece for you?
It could be a little of that, but the actual premise of it came from Facebook. I was like, and I don't even remember what Facebook group it was in. I was just kind of flipping around, and some Facebook group, somebody posted in there about how, whenever somebody gets to powers like Buffy or the person that's supposed to save the princess or whatever, it's always somebody young and strong, and which makes sense. You want the best person to, but somebody made a comment that's like, "Well, what would happen if somebody's grandma got the powers?" And then, the whole post was basically a joke, talking about they just went off. But when I read it, my mind went in a completely different direction. Instead of being a joke about it, I was thinking, that's kind of a cool concept. It kind of, turns the whole thing on its head. And it started me thinking about it, and then I kind of developed the premise of it from there.
Cool, excellent. So, thanks to a web page, where is it at? Thanks to these guys, Global Comics, you can see some of the art, some of the books on there. So we're gonna have a quick look at that. Just there you go.
That's going to be the cover to the print version of Alma. Excuse me. The print version of the Kickstarter.
Cool. She doesn't look 75.
Now that's the champion before Alma. So she ends up getting killed, and then Alma gets the powers, a few months later.
Oh, spoiler alert. Yeah.
Yeah. It happens pretty quick, so
fair enough. So when you kind of think of Buffy, you're absolutely right. Buffy's an icon. Even having the character aged, how does that affect the kind of the shenanigans that Buffy gets up to? Because obviously she's not going to be she's not going to be jumping over tombstones and jumping over graves and all that sort of stuff. So how does this kind of sort of like metamorphosize? Is it like the Dark Knight Rises where Batman complains about having a bad back?
Yeah, when Alma gets the powers, she gains the strength as the champion, but her body is still old and her body still has arthritis. It's still got all those creaks and all the bad knees. So like you said, she isn't going to be jumping over tombstones and things like that. She still can fight because she's got the strength, but it's going to take a little more out of her than it would like a 16-year-old girl or a younger person. So it's going to show a little different side. I want to show that side of what it's like to age as you go along too, but
yeah,
she's got to have that strength so she can actually fight the demons and whatnot. And Alma, I've made a conscious decision, at least in the first few issues, she's not fighting any vampires because, I've already got that connection to Buffy, with my tagline. Yeah. So I don't want it to be like people think, oh, this is just Buffy grown up. And, and so basically she's fighting demons and monsters, and eventually there'll be vampires. I'm sure that's going to pop up, but and then vampires are everywhere now too. So, I wanted to kind of keep it a little different. Basically it's going to be some demons and some monsters. I've already got the first 3 issues pretty much written. And the 3rd issue is kind of a haunted house story. The 2nd issue is more demons and more a ghost and some demons. So it's going to be a little different than, like the Buffy TV show or something, because I don't want it to be tied, even though I'm really pushing this tagline. Every post I make, I'm using that tagline. I don't want people to think, oh, this is Buffy grown up.
Yeah, just be careful Josh Whedon doesn't come looking for you. That's all right.
Yeah, I think he's got a few other problems on his hands.
True that. All right. Okay. So when you think about it, the kind of, I suppose, when you're a more mature person, it's not just the physical, as you say, the arthritis, the bad back, the bad knees. A person's worldview changes, right?
Yes.
So if you're a young person, you've got all this like cool power. It's like, yeah, look at me, I'm super cool. I can do all this stuff. As an older person, you might be thinking, whoa, what's going on? And your worldview is different to how it is when you're young. Do you play into that kind of vision that, 76-year-old superhero has a different set of, I suppose, principles? Ideals than the younger version?
She's very hesitant about the whole thing. In the beginning, it's almost like she thinks that she thinks she's had a stroke almost. That, this has all got to be in her imagination. Because when she gets to power, she passes out in her front yard, and she wakes up, and there's Tyrone, who is the internal companion to the champion, and he's a 3-foot garden gnome. So, when you see a 3-foot garden gnome, you kind of wonder what's going on. And even when, he's explaining the situation and then they're attacked by a demon, she's still very, she's not like really gung ho to jump into all of this. She's kind of like, I just want my life back. I just, too much has happened in my life. I don't want to be, dealing with this. I just want to work in my garden and putter around the house and, deal with that because, her husband died about 10 years before. So she lives by herself. She's estranged from her daughter and her granddaughter, which actually her granddaughter does show up in a future issue. So, it's later I kind of create my version of her Scooby Gang. Like, Buffy had her Scooby Gang, and I create her version of the Scooby Gang, which is going to be the ghost of her dead husband, and then her granddaughter, and then Tyrone, the garden gnome.
Cool. As long as there's nobody from the Bridge Club. That's all right. No. So what's it like? Writing comics, has it dramatically changed since when you started off over at Fantagraphics and some of those smaller press companies?
Yes and no, I think. When I first started, it was, trying to find artists. At that time, all the artists that I worked with, we were all going to take whatever we made as we did the comic. Nobody wanted money up front. Nowadays, and I understand, a lot of these artists I'm working with, this is their profession, they're, this is how they're making their money. I have a regular job that basically that's what's, paid for me making the comics. So,
Cool.
like Hernan, who's the artist on my on Alma, this is, he makes his money from art, and he has to feed his family. So, of course he wants money up front. So that's one of the bigger issues, I think, or the biggest changes. Nowadays I have to pay the artists up front, which, that's fine. Back in the day, all the artists I work with, I don't think I paid anybody. It was like, we'd work together. If we sold the story, then we'd, have our split or whatever, or, and move on.
Fair shout.
And I think back then, I think there was a lot more small publishers that you could send your stuff to. Nowadays, it's a little harder to get published, I think. That's why, I think I do more self-publishing now. Back in the like the 80s, when they had the black and white boom, there was a million black and white companies out there that they'd publish almost anything, so it was a lot easier to get stuff published. Nowadays, there's still some publishers. Like I said, I'm working with a few publishers, but I don't think there's quite as many publishers that are looking for people to work with. And it's, so I've moved more towards self-publishing the last few years also.
I mean, Kickstarter is probably the biggest GoFundMe type thing.
Yes.
So there is a lot of Kickstarters. I must talk to more Kickstarter creators than any other types of creators, to be honest. And the appeal for me about Kickstarter is you get ideas that you might not get from bigger comic companies, and the direction the story can take feels a little bit more organic because, John, it's your story, right?
Yeah.
You're not beholden to an editor who says, but do you think you should? You're like, dude, it's my book. I can do what I like.
Yeah. And and Kickstarter is just like you said. It's like I haven't really fooled with Kickstarter before. This is my first comic that I've kickstarted. But just, going through and looking at some of the stuff, I've funded Kickstarters, but I've really never got on the site and just looked through it. And it's like, there's people on there that I've never heard of, but they're making their career, I think, out of Kickstarter. They publish their book and they do another one later, 6 months or 2 months or a year later. And they can just, they can have their career with Kickstarter, and they don't need a publisher. They don't need someone else.
To build that sort of reputation, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I'm hoping to kind of, take some of that expense off of me, that, if I can kickstart stuff, I can, afford to pay the artist a little bit more money. Maybe I can get the books printed, and, and Kickstarter's got a big reach, if I can start, tapping into some of that reach and some of those people, I can spread out a lot more. Right now, most of my sales are through conventions because I do have an online shop, which I do a little bit, but most of my conventions have been within Louisiana. This year I'm starting to branch out and go a little further. But so, I'm kind of limited, especially if I keep doing the same shows every 6 months. It's like, oh, we've seen your stuff before. I don't, when you get something new, come back.
Yeah. It's hard swimming in the same ponds, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's happened because just in my little local area, which is not, I'm outside of New Orleans, which, is a fairly decent sized city, but in the city where I'm at, which is across, there's like 4 or 5 small cons that have a show like twice a year. So, I'm almost every other month I'm showing up at a convention and they're like, oh, we've seen stuff.
Not you again. Who's this guy?
I'm throwing money away for, I still want to do my local shows, but I don't think I need to do them quite as often. So, I want to start getting out to Atlanta and Florida and, some of these other places where people haven't seen the work. And then, and then Kickstarter too, a lot of people see it. I wouldn't reach any other way too, which I'm hoping.
So you know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yep.
Right. Before we get into more creative shenanigans with John, time for one of our adverts, one of our other shows. Where shall we go? You know what? Everybody loves this ad when they see it. It's time for a crisis in the Toyverse. you go. There's Bobo with Crisis in the Toyverse. Keep your eyes open. You never know. You might be able to get an Alma figure down the line. Who'd have thunk it? Look, Farland's doing loads of figures. I'm sure he'll be interested. Definitely. Let's have a look at the Kickstarter then, whilst we have you here. So let's just pop that up. Boom. So here is the blurb. What happens when the powers to be decide the hero of the story is a grandmother? Oh, bless Alma. I quite like this. I love this bit. If you think this is a TV show, you won't last 6 months. That's quite self-fulfilling on that one. How many shows recently on Netflix have been cancelled after one season? Unbelievable.
Yeah, you're not joking. Yeah, and that's going to be the T-shirt that we offer for one of the rewards too.
Sweet. Look at those granny pants. Oh my god.
Now the one thing that we've changed that on Alma is, and I forgot to tell Hernan when he drew it, is her shoe of choice is going to be a Croc. The Crocs. I don't know if you're familiar with Crocs.
Yes, I am.
But for her age, I figured Crocs would be perfect for her. And it was kind of funny because Hernan is from Argentina, and I guess he wasn't familiar with Crocs. So when I emailed him and said, hey, for the next issue, she has to wear Crocs, and he emailed me back and was alligators.
Yeah, snake shoes. Just be mindful.
I had to send him a picture of them.
Just be mindful over here. Everybody wears Crocs from 15-year-olds to God knows how many. So they are not the fashion of the elderly over here. Just so
okay.
Just give you a little bit of heads up on that one.
Yeah.
So how did you meet her, Nan?
On Facebook. As much as people complain about Facebook, and I'll agree, Facebook has a lot of bad issues. I probably have met almost every artist I've worked with in the last 5 years on Facebook, on some Facebook group or other. Cool. It's a good site to meet people, and especially from people from overseas and other places that I would never have had a chance to meet.
It's interesting because I think all social media has its good points and bad points. The amount of times I've had to, I start to say something on Twitter and I'm like, delete. What did I say recently? I saw a couple of things. One of them's really, really, I can't say because it was really bad. But the other one was someone complaining about Star Wars movies. Someone was saying, this isn't my Star Wars anymore. Bring back the New Hope Empire Strikes Back era. This isn't my Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I felt like saying, so I wrote this, I was like, dude, please bear in mind that when Star Wars first hit, you were probably 6 or 7. Star Wars has been and always will be a kid's movie. You are looking at it with 40 to 50-year-old eyes and feeling disappointed because you can see all the problems in the cliches and all the setups. I managed to stop posting it and delete it back one at a time because I thought, you know what, I do not want this argument.
Yeah.
That's
going to be an argument you don't win no matter what.
Yeah, I think I'm right. And I love Star Wars, but still. I don't want to get into that. The variant covers. Seems like everybody loves a good variant cover. Again, artists from Facebook, or did you try alternative methods on that?
Actually, some of them were for Facebook. Some of them are for like that one right there is from Ted Wally, who is a local artist in New Orleans that I know, a friend. He has a really awesome comic book called Matilda versus crap. I forgot the name of it now. Matilda versus the Demons of Hell or something, and she's in 6th grade. No, it's a really good comic. Now that's Hernan. Then there's another one that's on the variant covers is by an artist called Robbie Musso, who I've known since he used to work for me when he was 16 years old. So, and I didn't even realize he had gotten into comics. And then we kind of met back up years later. And that one's the one from Robbie. And Robbie's done work on on Transformers, and he works for Hasbro right now too, helping develop some of the artwork on the toys and stuff.
Cool. So the art is from a range of different places, then, right? So
Yeah,
it's not.
on that, in this regard, yeah, I kind of, was able to get a few, some local people, some local artists of mine, and some Facebook people.
Cool. Facebook is obviously the place to go for artistic talent in places. Let's just have a quick look at the pledges. You've got for $5 US or more, you get a digital version. I love having a digital version. I don't know about you, but I prefer comics to hold. But
Yeah, I do
when you
too,
have
but everybody wants a digital version too, I think, for at least every Kickstarter I've seen mostly always offers a digital version. So I figured I should at least do it.
Yeah, definitely. But the part for me, I think this is a really key part for your international fans, because you got to think, I don't mind dropping $5 on a Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
I do mind having to spend another $20 to get it shipped from the States over here. That makes the book $25, right? And I'm like, well,
yeah.
So I think for international, I think definitely PDFs, as much as I prefer the actual comic, is definitely the way to go on that one. Yep. So for 15, you get the print version, pin-ups, Alma's cookbook. Is that with real recipes?
Yeah. Yes, real recipes from my mom. Alma is actually, as much as I say it was based on Buffy, a lot of Alma, the name actually is my mom's name. And a lot of Alma is kind of like sneaking in from my mom, because when I created the character, then I went to think, okay, what name do I want to call her? I didn't want to name her something, too current. And I also thought about my mom is like one of the strongest people I know. She can, she would outwork me in a heartbeat. And I thought, this is a cool character to name after my mom. And so she became the inspiration also for a lot of the character. And we didn't want, one of the problems with Kickstarter too is, when I was at the conventions, I sold the comic for $5, and that was cool. But you can't sell a printed comic for $5 on Kickstarter, or you're going to lose your shirt, because with costs, printing costs and shipping and everything else. But I also didn't want to sell a 24-page comic for $15. So we've added, it's going to be at the minimum, it's going to be 40 pages. I'm thinking it's probably going to tap out about 44 pages. Because I've got the 24-page comic. I've added another 8-page story in there. We've got a letter page, because I've kind of sent it out to people ahead of time, because I've always loved the letter page in a comic.
Yeah.
We've got pinups in it. And then I've got like Alma's cookbook. It's going to be like 3 or 4 pages of just recipes from my mom in it. So it's depending on how many letters I get is where it's going to end up, either 44 or 48 pages, but at least 44 pages. So it's going to be a nice little hefty book. It's not going to be something too thin. So I'm hoping that's going to be worth the $15 that people pay for it.
I'm just thinking psychologically wise. You've got a reflective story about how the champion is an older person, not a younger person, and the model of this person's your mum, your mother. I'm like thinking, oh my God, Freud would have a field day.
We don't want to open that can of worms.
yeah, that's the wrong type of show for this. Let's just give them out the comic books. All right, for $30 or more, you get the book, you get the short stories, you get more pin-ups. Excellent. You get the variant cover. Excellent. Again,
and each variant cover is limited to 30 issues. So I think I've got 5 variant covers.
Okay, cool. So you get a chance to see
I tried
which
not
cover
to
you
add
want.
a lot of rewards.
Rewards are some of the things that people love the most, aren't they? The fact that
yeah, but I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole and have like 50 different reward tiers and stuff like that. Now that may have been a mistake too. I may realize and want to go back and I've got the plush of Tyrone, that I've got somebody making. And then that's one of the first comics I self-published was a comic called Ayla, Speaker for the Dead. And I published it at 8.5 and 11 size. So I'm offering that with Alma as one of their tiers too.
Cool. What was I going to say there? From my experience looking at Kickstarters, I tend to think people love things like buttons and stickers and bookmarks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, I'll tell you how bad it is. Stefan Seach, the guy who does Sunstone, has a statue coming out, and the price of it is humongously expensive, which is fine because it's a statue, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
But you can get a postcard set, and that postcard set's something like $10. And I'm thinking, I'll buy the postcards.
Yeah.
I've never bought a postcard in my life. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to drop $10 on it, right? I was like,
yeah.
Man. So I think it's the uniqueness sometimes of some of the things that you consider. I mean, the cookbook I think is a great idea. I think I love that idea a lot. It's a really clever.
Yeah, you don't
little
see too many cookbooks in a comic.
yeah.
So you don't see too many cookbooks in a comic.
You don't. But I'm going to stay away from the line about stories being half baked if that was the case. Boom. I jest. All right. Okay. So you can see your work. There is a couple of websites we can look at. We've had them up already. We'll go and have another quick look. If you're interested in a Kickstarter, by all means, go and check it out. There it is. Now, everybody says to me, Machine, why is a Kickstarter so long? Do you know we have to pause it and make you look ugly while we write it down? Yes, I get it. The Kickstarter ID is really long. So here's the thing, right? Just go to Kickstarter, click the search, and type Alma the Champion. Guess what happens? Takes you straight to the page. Or you can pause this, make me look ugly, and write it down from there. You also have we have Global Comics. Now Global Comics is a great little venue. Let's just have a quick share of that whilst you're here. Share screen. Global Comics. It's that one. Boom. So this is an opportunity for people to read digitally, right?
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of my other comics up on Global Comics too. So it's not just Alma. I've got probably about a dozen comics up there.
So Global Comics is dead easy to use. There is a link. You can have a look. It's there, right there. Again, just Global Comic. You can go from there, and then from that point, do your search to find Alma. Great little site. Keep checking on that. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, I think I've interviewed the head honcho of Global Comics way back when. There you go. And of course, Diebold Comics. This is your comic company, right?
Yes, sir.
How long's Diebold been going?
It's only been running for about a little over a year. I was self-publishing for a while basically with just my name, without any type of brand or anything, but I decided it was time to create a brand for it. And so I've been doing Diebold for about a year now. I've got about 18 comics I think I've published through so far.
Cool.
The website's a work in progress. I don't have my shop up on it, but it'll be up there soon where you can buy the comics and t-shirts and other things. I had it on another site, but it was costing too much to the server. So I'm in the process of moving it. On the site, I'll have like pretty much all my comics and like the first 4 pages that you can read just to kind of get an idea of what the comic is like. So to give you just a little preview of everything.
Is this picture from Hernandez? Was you told him again the guy had to wear Crocs again? Is that what that's all about? No.
That's going to be a character coming up, but no, he's not.
He's like,
that was his version of the Crocs.
Yeah, dude, it's an alligator, not a croc. So you've written for different companies. The kind of process has changed regarding how you go about finding talent and stuff. How's the actual writing changed for you? Do you still collaborate as you do with that artists? Are you Are you a full script kind of guy and then let the artist work from that, or are you very much let the artist breathe into the story?
Yeah, I'm pretty much a full script. I usually, send them a full script, and if they have any change ideas or want to change it around a little bit, that's cool. But usually they get a full script from me. I just feel more comfortable writing it, and showing what's going on than I've never been able to quite do it the Marvel method way, where just a paragraph or two or whatever to work out,
Can you just imagine Alma old, champion dead, gnome talk. There you go, crack on.
Yeah. But I'm always open, like if the artist says, hey, this would work better, or what if we did this different, a little different, and things like that. I'm always, open to that back and forth on it to see, anything that will help make the story better.
So when we say full script, do you go into, because it always fascinates me how people kind of put comic books together. Do you sort of go like page 1, panel 1, serious shot? Then this is the dialogue page.
Pretty much. The only thing I don't really put in my scripts is like sound effects.
All right, okay.
I know a lot of people, will put the sound effects in and all that. I'll let that. I usually leave that to the artist to, to add to wherever they want. But I'll do like, page 1, panel 1, just describe what's going on, and then the dialogue or whatever. Some of my panel captions are can be long, and in some of them I try not to write a whole lot unless it's something that I feel is very important. I may just say, hey, Alma's outside and she's working in her garden and she passes out, and then just kind of leave it to but if I want to specific things in the panel, like maybe there's something should be in the background that's going to play later in the book or something, then I make sure I put all that in. But I don't want to bog the artist down with like an Alan Moore page or an Alan Moore script where he writes one panel can be like a page and a half. I want the artist to have to feel that they're contributing and they've got some idea of what's going on.
Does that therefore make you something of a mini editor?
I guess.
Better not say you'll be pulling 2 paychecks for that, won't you? Right?
Yeah. Most of the artists, follow the scripts pretty well. There's a few, that will add a few things and change a few things. I'm doing a book with he's actually a local artist. He's a friend of mine, called 2 Tons of Fury. And it's what we did is it's actually coming out from Antarctica in about 2 months. Cool. And it's using some public domain characters. It's using Herbie the Fat Fury, Fat Man the Human Flying Saucer, Billy Bounce. It's all, so as you can tell from the characters, it doesn't take itself too serious. It's the original concepts didn't take themselves very serious. So it's a humor book. It's a lot of fun. And I wrote a script for that, and Larry follows it, but Larry is a huge fan of like Herbie. So and this type of comic, so he's adding a lot of little Easter eggs and a lot of little things in addition to what my script called for, which is just actually adding to the storyline. But he knows like all these old characters like the back of his hand. I know him well enough to write them, but I'm not that, with them.
Cool. Excellent. All right. So the Kickstarter is live. As it currently stands, you have 27 days to go. You currently have 18 backers. How long has the Kickstarter been running?
3 days. Today's the 3rd day.
That's not bad going for like 3 days. Like, is it really? I think,
Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping it was going to come out and be funded the first day, but so I'm every day I'm just like, I keep thinking, okay, is it underfunded, over? Like I said, this is my first Kickstarter, so I'm sure I've made a few mistakes here and there. I hope I squeak through, and then I'll learn through my mistakes, and this is hopefully the way I'm going to be, doing it for a while.
January is a tough month. A lot of people have that whole 6-week So, for example, I got paid in December on the 19th of December, which is ridiculously early because my normal payday is at the end of the month, right? So you get paid on 19th of December. That wage is no extra. It's your normal monthly paycheck, but it's now got to last you 7-8 weeks. It's like, dude, that's a lot.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
people get past this this January paycheck, you might see an uptake on that, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I spend a lot of time the last 2 days. I've spent a lot of time online, like posting to every type of site and organization I can think of that might even have a slight interest in it. So
cool. Well,
hopefully that'll be off too.
Well, we love Kickstarters on Outside. We absolutely think they're the bee's knees. We love every single aspect of it. As I said earlier, it's new characters, new stories going in different ways. Lots of people are bored with kind of, I'll give you a prime example. Batman 130 this last month. Batman falls from space without the spacesuit and manages to walk away without breaking a bone. And like all you Batman fans, of which I'm one of them, I'm like, what am I reading?
Yeah.
When did this happen?
I haven't read Batman in a while, so
so I think a lot of people are getting moved away from maybe the cyclic nature of the big two and the mega icons that we're dealing with. That's not to say that they don't have fun. I still enjoy, Detective Comics by Ram V's very good. Captain Marvel by Kelly Thompson's equally very good. 2 different books. But that said,
Nightwing. I've been reading Nightwing a lot.
Nightwing by Tom Taylor, absolutely brilliant, fantastic. I've just read issue 100 recently. That was really well.
I just finished that. Yeah, he's good. Now I'm going to have to pick up Titan since he's writing it. Which I probably wouldn't have picked up before, but I at least have to give it a shot to see what it's like because he's been doing such a good job on Nightwing.
Yeah, it is. It's because I think there's a couple of characters that DC have no idea what to do with sometimes. One of them is Nightwing, and the other one's Catwoman. Those 2 characters seem to get the rough end of the stick, left, right, and center. But since Taylor's been on that book, it has been the bomb. It has been consistently good, definitely.
Well, exactly. I think he's writing Nightwing like he should be. He's made him a force in the DC universe. He's made him where he's supposed to be, and not just character off to the side.
Yeah. I mean, I love the old Chuck Dixon, Scott McDaniel stuff. When it first started back in the late, I'm going to say early 90s. That's kind of my Nightwing, but this run's been very good. I dropped it for a while when he was Rick. I came back to it when Tom Taylor came back on. So
I picked it up because I missed the first couple Tom Taylor issues, but I read so much about it, and I was like, I need to check it out and see what it is. So I like a good Marvel or DC comic still. I mean, I've been reading them since forever, so I don't think I'd ever forget them.
What's your poison and what are you reading at the moment? Nightwing. What else?
Nightwing. Anything Tom King writes. I know Tom King's kind of a polarizing figure in some camps, but
I am this person. I absolutely loved Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Yes,
I thought that was my vote for book of last year. I thought it was brilliant. On the flip side, after Batman versus Batman Catwoman, I was like, what the hell is this? So you kind of it's like what?
Yeah. So he's I'm reading some new stuff, Danger Street and The Human Target.
Yes.
I don't think I'm reading anything from Marvel right now. Marvel just gets so locked into their continuity that sometimes it's hard to pick up a comic. It's just there's so much background you have to need to read them. And I used to be that person, back that loved that continuity when it started. But then when I took a 10-year break from them or whatever it was, I was reading Daredevil when I had their Marvel app, so I was reading that and that was pretty good. Daredevil's always, from he was actually the first really superhero comic I think I read. I think Daredevil 50 or 49 were it was like one of the first comics I picked up that started me collecting. I mean, I was reading stuff before that, like Casper and the Three Mouseketeers, and that was the first one that kind of got me into like, oh, I want to collect this character in this comic. But then there's other stuff like Saga, of course.
Yeah, everyone loves Saga.
I have to pick that up in fact, I haven't picked up the new issue yet. I need to go out and get that. I forgot that came back.
No, that's back.
Yeah.
What else I'm reading all sorts. I saw a review for Comic Crusaders, so I get to see a whole host of different stuff. So, I get to
Are you reading Ed Buebreaker?
The which? Sorry,
The Reckless.
Yes, reviewed that more than once. That series is spot on. It is.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah,
isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
That hard-boiled gumshoe detective type vibe and the art.
Oh
it's
yeah.
Just, oh man, it's like going to the cinemas. It is.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. If you can,
I like
check out the Reckless books.
I liked this stuff before, Criminal and stuff, but I wasn't that like crazy fan of his until when I picked up Reckless. Was just like I thought was this is perfect. Yeah, just these single standalone issues, that. And then one of the books I really picked up that I was impressed with. What's the Furthest Place from Here?
Oh, I haven't read that.
That's very different by Matthew Rosenberg.
I love Matthew Rosenberg. I felt sorry for Matthew Rosenberg a while ago because he was on. He had the unenviable task of writing Uncanny X-Men, just prior to the Hickman stuff.
Oh yeah.
So you're like, do your stuff. Oh, by the way, it's not going to matter one jot because we're going to reboot everything anyway.
I did. I remember hearing some podcasts with him on there talking about that. Yeah.
And I'm like, what? The Shaft is really good. But he's recently been doing DC versus Vampires.
Yeah.
With Tinian. The run's been over long. I think 12 issues for this one idea is just too long. But there's been some really good fun elements in it. So, no, but I like Rosenberg a lot.
Yeah, definitely. But you should pick up What's the Furthest Place from Here. It's very, it's unique. It's just so different. It makes me wish I had written that comic. That's to me the highest praise I can think of. That's a comic that I would have loved to.
I wish I'd written this book.
Yeah, but it's so different that I don't know if I could have come up with that idea for it. But it's really good. I've been enjoying that. That's probably one of my favorite comics right now.
Good. I'll check it out. Excellent. John, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's just run through the dates one more time. There's your Kickstarter. As I said earlier, go to Kickstarter, type in Alma the Champion, and boom, you'll be able to find it from there. Get yourself back in that. Have a look at which pledge you want to go for. International followers, by all means, check out the PDF. Only $5. And then that could be good or bad depending on what the exchange rate is where you are. Keep up to date with everything Diebold Comics. There is the website again, Diebold, for all of John's stuff you'll be able to see. Bear in mind it's work in progress, so keep it, log it as your favorites, keep checking it in to see what you can get from there. You've got Global Comics, an opportunity to see Alma on your screen, a few pages in there, get a taste of what Alma's all about and see if it is your cup of tea. And then finally, you want to interact with John, they're on Twitter at Diebold Comics, exactly as it is. Like, follow. I'm sure there'll be some updates coming your way. In fact, whilst we're talking, let me do that now. No, my luck. I did this out live before. Sometimes I was like, I'm already following you. Isn't that amazing? Bold.
I post a lot. I usually post a good bit on Twitter too. So I'm on Twitter a good bit.
I'm already following.
And you'll see pictures of my new dog on Twitter too. Besides comic related stuff, I post a lot of pictures and reels of my new puppy. So
there you go. Yeah, excellent. I'm already following you. Oh man, I've got my finger on the pulse, man. Finger on the pulse. John, it's been an absolute blast talking to you. Thank you so much for spending the time with me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir. I enjoyed this very much. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including, you saw the advert for it earlier, Crisis in the Toyverse. And for all you Marvel heads, No Price Podcast. For you DC heads, it's the Definitive Crusade. And if, like John and I, you like your comics a little bit older, it's the Old Timers Comic Book Show. Trust me, you don't need to have a beard to be honest. It does help though. What can I say? John, thanks again. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And I have been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. And as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.shop, all about comic pop culture.